this morning I was listening to the song Something in the Way by Nirvana. And it's funny because I used to listen to Nirvana a lot whenever I was younger, but I don't listen to them very often anymore. And every once in a while, they'll come up again. So, like, last time I really sat down and listened to Nirvana was when I was traveling through Seattle. And I noticed that the atmosphere of Seattle sounded very much like the band Nirvana. And when I say that it sounded like Nirvana, I don't mean that there was a physical sound present. I meant that there was an atmosphere, a subtle expression of sound in the mist and in the graffiti and cracked walls and just the tone of the place, the spiritual tone of the city. It was kind of similar to when I went to Providence, Rhode Island, to the house where H.P. Lovecraft died, or where he last lived. And I could sense in that place a particular atmosphere. And I thought to myself, well, of course, Lovecraft produced the art that he produced in this place because it has that tone. Certain places, every place, not certain places, although every place is a certain place, there's a tone that we can associate with a certain place. And it reminds me of Tibetan singing bowls. If you don't know what those are, they're these metallic, or sometimes they're made of crystal or some other material, but they're these bowls, and you strike them and you bring this little rod around the edge of the bowl and you produce a tone, and it's utilized a lot in tantric meditation, especially in modernity. And those tones produce a particular sound that is associated sometimes with a particular chakra or state of consciousness. And we have this practice called Antar Mauna in Tantric Yoga, where you sit in stage 1 of Antar Mauna and you listen in a bubble that you imagine, and you expand the bubble and expand it and expand it, and eventually you try to hear the sound that is at the furthest possible distance from your physical body. And it is in that practice that I have often heard the Om, which in this case didn't sound like, or in the examples of hearing Om in the past, the many examples, it never sounded like Om. It sounded like a ringing in my ears, but I knew it was Om. I knew it. How did I know it? Because I tapped into a transcendent condition where I was one with everything. And just as you come into that condition of oneness, and just as you come out of that condition of oneness, you have access to the almost unspoiled library of cosmic knowledge. And in that little second of shifting between connection with the Godhead and detachment, you have this library of knowledge open up to you, and you can choose one sentence from one book and look at it and have confirmation of something. Maybe not everything, but something. And you can compare that one line that you read in that 1 second of transcendent awareness and understanding to other examples, other lines that you've taken from that grand cosmic library, and you can begin to develop your own library of knowledge that you keep in your present vessel. But But I was listening to this song, Something in the Way. And the reason I played this song this morning is because I've been bringing my awareness lately to Ushishta Ganapati and his retinue. And Ushishta Ganapati is Lord of the left-hand path. So if you don't know what the word Ushishta means, it means leftover. And Ganapati is Ganesh, the elephant-headed god in the Indian pantheon. But Ushishta Ganapati could also be known as the leftover Ganapati, or the Black Ganesh, or the Agori Ganesh. And I've had a few really potent run-ins with this God in my life. I've worshipped him. I've communed with him to try to understand what it means to be left over and the power of being left over. You see, because we're all left over. If you're not part of that singular Godhead, you're expressed out as an individuated form. You're left over. I said that library is almost pure. Purity of consciousness on a cosmic scale is everything smashed into one, to where we don't know the difference between ourselves and other people, or other things, other creatures. And in that place, everything's pure. But we don't know that place. How can we? Because we have nothing to compare to. We have no contrast. So, we are leftovers from that condition. And being leftovers from that condition, we are all impure. Not one single person or thing or animal in that impure state has that pure knowledge. We have our own leftover condition to share with others. And this is why Ushishta Ganapati is Lord of the left-hand path. Because the left-hand path is the coming down from the peak of the mountain. It's the coming down from heaven. It's the coming down from that singular point, the Godhead. So what do you do in this wretched, dirty, impure, leftover condition? What do you do with yourself? Well, you're sharing your sliver. Or at least you're showing it off. You're existing within it. Ganapati is a remover of obstacles, and the way that you remove obstacles in a leftover condition is dependent upon what you have left over. I was born with particular traits. I'm bald or balding. I have a beard. I'm blonde. I have blue eyes, white skin. I was born in the American South. I have a birth chart. Astrology. Astrology, by the way, your birth chart is a picture, a snapshot taken at your birth of your karma, your blood karma. Whatever you were born with, whatever is left over, is represented in that chart. But Ganapati is a remover of obstacles, and so is his Vahana, his vehicle, Mushika, the mouse or the rat. He rides on this mouse, Mushika. And the thing about mice and rats and many rodents, is that they're masters of the leftover condition. They will take scraps from anything and build their kingdom, and nothing will stop them. They find holes in the wall. They find new and ingenious ways to use the old. And most people think they're disgusting. Most people think that they're dirty, impure, diseased creatures. And some of them are, and some of them aren't. They're actually quite clean in a domestic condition. But they have a lot to teach us about overcoming obstacles, because sometimes you overcome obstacles by being a giant elephant man and pushing the wall over, and sometimes you overcome obstacles by being a little mouse and finding a hole in the wall that you could sneak through. And that song, Something in the Way, I was thinking about obstacles. And what's the obstacle that Kurt Cobain is singing about in that song? Well, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, I might get the line wrong, but he says something like, "It's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings." Now, if you look at Kurt Cobain's birth chart in Western astrology, he had what we call a Pisces stellium, which means that he had a major concentration of Pisces in his birth chart. He was, I believe, Sun, Mercury, and Venus Pisces. It's a lot of Pisces. And Pisces is the fish. And in the work that the Ride the Tiger Yoga Kula has conducted, the work I've conducted with my consort specifically, we have done a lot of work examining the correspondence between the chakras and the zodiac. And we have found that the frequency of Pisces matches quite well with the frequency of the Ajna, or the third eye. And the third eye is our access point to subtle sensation, the subtle senses. So, seeing things that aren't physically there, hearing things that are not physically there, tasting, touching, smelling, being aware of things that are not obviously physically present. Now, in Tantric cosmology, we would say that everything has a physical component, everything has a spiritual component, as above, so below. But the Ajna allows you to pick up subtleties in the world. Like, for example, feelings of creatures that some might consider to be without feelings. A special sensitivity. So for the longest time it was said, oh, it's okay to eat fish. If you're a vegetarian, it's okay to eat fish because they don't feel things the same way that other animals feel things. And of course, now we know that that's not true, that fish do have feelings. And of course, Kurt Cobain knew that fish have feelings because he was one. But fish have that look in their eyes, like what's going on in there? Are they really conscious? What's happening? But if you become sensitive enough in the third eye, you will discover that everything has feelings. Everything. The ceiling above me and the wall and this chair that I'm sitting in and this t-shirt I'm wearing, and everything has feelings. Everything has an expression of consciousness. And all elements of consciousness are represented in everything. So, your inability to see the feeling in something else is more of a commentary on you than that thing. But what do we do with this knowledge? That's a great obstacle now. If we realize that everything has feelings, everything has a soul, everything expresses divinity, what do we do with this knowledge? Do we just stop existing? Something is in the way. And it's this deep awareness of the being of it all. And of course, when I take this leftover form, I'm surrounded by other leftover forms, and they all have feeling and they all have presence. They're all in the way. I'm in the way. Everything's in the way. Something's always in the way. So we tell ourselves, well, it's okay to eat that, or push that over, or destroy that obstacle because it doesn't have any feelings. But Ushishta Ganapati teaches us a new perspective, because Ushishta Ganapati accepts anything as an offering. There is no taboo. He accepts blood, alcohol, meat, candy, semen. It doesn't matter. You can give him anything. You can give him a big middle finger. Fuck you, Ganapati. And he'll accept it. Now, what is he teaching us? Well, he's helping us overcome the biggest obstacle of all, which is the feeling of guilt in our impure state. And if you become aware enough of your condition and the condition of others, you will experience that at some point. That guilt. Because you're not one with all. You're leftover. And so just to live and enjoy, be in the dance, the lila, you got to overcome feelings of guilt and shame for existing in this impure leftover state. And you don't have to adopt the opinion that the thing that you want to consume has no feelings. No. In fact, you can affirm that it has feelings and still feel no shame for the consumption if it is the necessary thing to do for your art, for your dance. And then at some point you have a realization that maybe that Godhead, that oneness, isn't the prime state after all. Maybe we're not left over from it. Maybe God is left over from us.